Hello everyone, my name is Mr. McMuttonchops, also known as Fink. And one thing I definitely know about, and quite knowledgeable about, is MOBAs. So, quick thing about MOBAs. They're a new genre, to say the least. But what is MOBA? MOBA is basically multiplayer online battle arena. So let's break those words down. Multiplayer. There's more players than you. You coexist with these other players. Oh, online, meaning that you're gonna need a connection to play with these players via the internet, via cable box, and all that. A internet provider, an ISP to say the least, if not a server. B battle. You're a fight. That's what you do. You're a fight. And this arena, this is basically a map. It's where the action happens. Well, it all leads back to Blizzard. In a strange way, despite the fact that they recently got into the MOBA market with Heroes of the Storm, featuring all of their properties. But it didn't just start with them. But it wasn't until early 2000 with StarCraft Brood Wars and a mod from Alright, so in 1998, a modder called Arion64 created Arion Strife, a family custom map, and players control a single hero, controlled units in 3 lanes. These lanes were based on teams. The objective was to destroy their team. So basically the groundwork of what MOBAs are today. Years later in 2002, Blizzard releases a next real-time strategy game, Warcraft 3. Like StarCraft, it came with a lot of tools, with custom maps. EUL, E-U-L, created a mod inspired by Aeon called Defense of the Agents, which had practically everything, but adding his own flavor text to things, and heroes and items and such. But it was full of player-controlled characters. And not only did they fight, they also gained levels and you use their abilities to buy items and you go through jungles of creeps and whatnot, to basically define of what MOBAs are. But as Dota came along in 2002, others started to do other mods as well. A mod by the name of Squinsu. However, there also was still a mod of Warcraft 3, which means that depending on the assets of that game, so it could never feature a hero that could use a completely new model, nor could it use any of the characters who worked on it for monetary profit. Fink would eventually leave the development to another mod by the name of IceFrog. Under IceFrog's guidance, continued to grow as popularity. So that's where basically we see IceFrog come from. Kinda just like stealing the show. Came by and just like, I'm just gonna take this and make it better. Along came 2009 with League. That is the biggest title right now. EA tried to make their own MOBA, try and get into that freaking cash cow, and it didn't quite work out well. They decided to freaking cancel it while it was still in development. I even got into the beta, I think like a year before they even really announced it. It was called Dawngate, and it had some pretty interesting concepts, to say the least, but it didn't pan out too well. And decided to cancel it. It was announced back in 2013. Yeah, it was 2013 it was announced, and it didn't quite pan out too well. MOBAs. What are the elements of MOBAs? Quite essentially, it has the same kind of elements as an MMO has. There is a DPS, there is a healer, and there is a tank. Those roles have been pretty much defined since the beginning of RPGs, single player, MMOs, MUDs, whatnot. DPS are basically people that are not quite heavy on armor or health, but go out there and deal a buttload of damage. A sword, a friggin' arrow, bullets, magic, what may have you. Tanks, they don't do a lot of damage, but they have a lot of health and a lot of armor. They're the one that go in and friggin' block any form of damage whatsoever. Supports are people that are basically, try to help out, both parties, to say the least. Making sure they both don't die, and while also probably controlling the battlefield. Now, those are the basic terms, but it has expanded quite exponentially in terms of what kind of roles can you do. Well, right now, in terms of League, this game I've been playing for quite some time. I began playing it back in 2010, when my brother introduced it to me, when we were both in the hotel room on a family trip to, I don't know God where or when that was. But it was definitely several years ago, to say the least. Because he started playing it back when he got into college. And he realized that I didn't have a job or anything. So he said, he showed me the game. And he showed me Twitch, which was a play rat, which was a little rat-like character that can go invisible and gain its speed and attack speed. And it can shoot you with poison bolts. And had all these cool abilities and whatnot. And it just looked kind of a confusing mess. But I got into it. And I dove quite deep into that hole. And I remember when I first started playing it, it was before Urgot. Now, recently got reworked, but this is Urgot before he was revealed, which I checked up on the reveal date. That was back in August 2010. August 23rd, 2010. So it's almost been 7 years ago since Urgot had been released, but he's been reworked in order to function better. And I couldn't be more happier for it. But The roles have changed. There's now just like combinations between DPS and tank, where there's bruisers in which you're not truly one or the other, but you can do kind of both mediocrically, as well as adding a ARAM type game mode. Which, although we don't understand ARAM, it's all random, all middle. Basically, it's one lane, there's 2 towers, and there's additional 2 towers where the base is at. You can't recall, back to your point, and get items. You only have 1 life to get in order to get those items. A lot of things are accelerated, such as health regen, and mana regen, attack speed, level up. You're already level 3 when you freaking spawn, so you put those points wisely. Gather your items and go fight, and basically what an all team fight. Now, elements of MOBAs. What makes a MOBA? Well, it might be obvious to some people because people are starting to think that Overwatch is a MOBA. Well, there couldn't be more wrong from the truth. Maps of MOBAs is having a base, having 3 lanes, a middle, a top, and a bottom, basically being an isometric view, though that's the most typical, but there is MOBAs in which there are third person, and there's possibly even one with that's first person, but it's out there probably, if not being developed. And between those 3 lanes, there are at least 2 jungles and a middle section where the river is, in which quite a few fights happen there. There's brush, in which enemy team, unless the enemy team has a ward, in which allows them to see in certain places for a certain distance until the ward dies, or gets noticed and destroyed. What kind of champions the players pick depends on what lane they want to go play on. Creeps. And creeps are basically little creatures that you can attack and get gold from. You can also farm gold from jungles, which is where neutral monsters are. They attack you or anyone else. You have your creeps, you have your enemy's creeps. You attack you get last hit, which basically last hit is who gets the gold. Did you last hit or did someone else last hit? Did a minion last hit? Well, then the minion doesn't really get anything because it can't spend anything. It's supposed to die. It's a pawn. But there's early game, there's mid game, there's late game tactics. Aside from that, what makes a MOBA is having a unique character that's a unique silhouette that has certain skill set and abilities that makes them different from a head and shoulder above everyone else. The fact that now they have these identifiable traits that someone can look at and say, yes, I understand what's happening there. There's some kind of traction to it. Well, these games do have. Is Overwatch a MOBA? It's not. It's simply not, for the reason of the fact that is there's nothing to really work towards other than a victory in the match. And matches are quite short. Not saying MOBA matches can't be short. They can be due to the fact that people can surrender easily. At least at a certain time limit, though. That's the problem. Especially if a player is a little pissy, they quit. There's huge penalties either way. But there's no minions, there's no towers. There is a goal, but the goal is something that's not exactly defined to or restrained to MOBAs. Aside from that, you can't buy items, you can't upgrade your abilities. You have your ultimates, but you can't really alter your ultimates. Their stack is all hell. Aside from that, you don't gain currency. The only real currency you get is experience, which you get to use as a loot box. Where you have MOBAs like League of Legends, but in the match you have some form of in-game currency in which you use to buy champion or runes or other little passive buffs. Which that's another thing, really, too. League and a few other games have this background, like this kind of subconscious buffs, or whatever, passive buffs, in which are applied to the character, in which not a lot of games have that, nor does Overwatch. Overwatch is a simple game. You have characters that are identifiable. They all have unique skill sets and whatnot. Like both games do have a counter and a complementary pick to those characters, but they're still not. Overwatch is still not a MOBA. And